Hello everyone. I will start today with our presentation in pricing and buying, efficient customer response, short ECR. And yeah, so we will start with what is ECR, then we will have how ECR works, also a third why ECR matters for retailing, then the example, ECR in practice, Barilla. Then we have quick Wedel application and a conclusion in the end. That's our lovely team and our sources. So, what is ECR? According to the literature, ECR is a collaborative management concept between retailers and manufacturers. In the past, these two parties often worked against each other, trying to push costs to the other side. ECR changed that. It's a win-win-win strategy. The goal is to increase efficiency across the entire supply chain while simultaneously improving consumer value. As the phrase on the site says, it's about working together to fulfill consumer wishes by better, faster, and at less cost. Where did this start? ECR emerged in the early 1990s in the US grocery sector. At the time, companies were struggling with high logistic costs and intense competition. The old model was a push system. Manufacturers produced goods based on long-term forecasts and pushed them into the stores. This was very inefficient. It often led to massive overstocking, where too much money was tied up in inventory. Or the opposite, stock-outs, where customers want to buy a product but the shelf is empty. The breakthrough of ECR is the transition from push to pull. This is made possible by point of sale, short POS data. Every time a product is scanned at checkout, a signal is sent back through the supply chain. This real-time information puts the replenishment. Instead of producing based on a guess, the manufacturer produces and ships based on actual demand. This creates a seamless flow of information and goods, ensuring that the right product is always in the right place at the right time. To conclude, why does this matter for our focus on pricing and buying? ECR allows us to look at total system cost instead of just lowest purchase price. By reducing the bullwhip effect, which is the distortion of demand as it moves up to the chain, we create a much more stable and transparent market. ECR effectively turns a fragmented supply chain into a collaborative value network. Thank you.
So now I'm going to explain to you how ECR really works. So ECR is typically structured into 4 core components which appear consistently across our sources. These 4 pillars represent the operational foundation of ECR. Together they create this holistic system or an integrated system, and it connects logistics, marketing, and strategic planning, which also then directly supports better pricing decisions and more strategic buying. Next up, I'm going to go more into detail about the 4 pillars. First up, we have the efficient replenishment. It focuses on improving the flow of goods through the supply chain. The key idea is that replenishment should be driven by real consumer demand. One example of tool for this could be the vendor-managed inventory, which is where the supplier takes over responsibility for the retailer's stock. Or another example could be continuous replenishment. The goal is to reduce stock outs and lower inventory levels. Efficient replenishment ensures that products move smoothly and predictably from manufacturer to shelf based on real consumer demand. So for the second pillar, we have the efficient assortment. Retailers and manufacturers jointly optimize the SKU mix here, SKU standing for stock keeping unit. Category management plays a central role here. It means that retailers and manufacturers manage a product category almost as if it's its own small little business unit. So instead of focusing on a single product, they focus on the entire category. The goal is to have the right products and the right quantities, to use shelf space ideally, and to remove slow-moving items. This leads to assortment that better reflects what consumers actually want. So now to our third pillar, the efficient promotion. So traditionally, promotions were supplier-driven and often created artificial demand spikes. ECR actually tries to replace this by using data-driven and coordinated promotions that are planned jointly across the whole supply chain. This reduces forward buying, meaning that retailers sometimes purchase really large quantities during a discount period just to benefit from the lower price. From that, it results in demand spikes and inefficiencies. The goal is so to run fewer but more effective promotions that actually increase the category value. Research from 2002 from our sources show that coordinated promotions significantly also improve the supply chain stability. So now to the fourth and to the last pillar, the efficient product introduction. New products are launched collaboratively with shared forecasting and planning. This reduces failure rates and speeds up time to shelf. Joint planning ensures that both manufacturers and retailers are aligned on launch timing, quantities, and promotional support. This makes product introductions more successful and reduces the high costs that come with failed launches. So now that you know more about ECR, I'm going to hand over to Moritz.
So now let's move on why ECR matters for retailing. So ECR is very important for retailing because it improves two key areas, so pricing and buying. So in general, ECR means that retailers and suppliers work more closely together. So studies show that both sides benefit from this collaboration. So retailers become more efficient, have better product availability, and more stable processes. So suppliers benefit from more predictable demand and stronger long-term relationships. Now let's start with the first one, so the impact on pricing. So ECR helps retailers reduce costs, especially in logistics and inventory. So these savings make it possible to keep prices more stable. Also, better data and forecasting help companies predict what customers will buy. So this reduces the need for sudden discounts or extreme price changes. Another important tool is category management. So products are grouped in roles, for example, products that attract customers or products that generate profit. This allows retailers to set prices more strategically. Overall, ECR leads to a more consistent and customer-friendly pricing strategy. So second, the buying, impact on buying. So in the past, retail buyers mainly focused on getting the lowest purchase price. With ECR, this changes. So now the focus is on the total system cost. So this means retailers also consider factors like logistic costs, supplier reliability, risks of empty shelves, and overall performance. As a result, companies make more long-term and partnership-based decisions. Another important effect is the reduction of the bullwhip effect. So this means that small changes in customer demand no longer cause large fluctuations in orders and inventory. So this leads to more stable planning and better decisions in both pricing and buying. So in summary, ECR helps retailers improve pricing, optimize buying decisions, and build stronger relationships with suppliers. So however, there are also some challenges. So implementing ECR requires high investment in IT systems and organizational changes. So it also depends heavily on trust and data sharing between partners. And in addition, large retailers can gain more power, which means benefits are not always equally shared.
All right, I'm now going to show you an example which is Barilla's Just-in-Time Distribution Program, or short for JITD. I'm assuming you all are familiar with the brand Barilla. I mean, who isn't? And this case is arguably the most complete real-world example of ECR in action. Now, why did Barilla need ECR in the first place? To understand why just-in-time distribution matters, we need to start with the problem Barilla was facing. Retailers were placing irregular orders, promotions created massive demand spikes, and forecasting was poor. The result? High inventory levels, frequent stockouts, and production chaos. This is a textbook bullwhip effect. Small fluctuations in consumer demand got amplified dramatically as you moved up the supply chain. Barilla's response was JITD, just-in-time distribution. They introduced 5 interconnected measures. First, point-of-sale data sharing. Instead of guessing, retailers shared real sales data. Second, vendor-managed inventory. Barilla itself decided when and how to replenish. Third, continuous replenishment based on actual demand. Fourth, a reduction in promotions to smooth out those demand spikes. And fifth, joint planning of assortments with retailers. The key shift? Production and distribution now followed real consumer demand, not speculative retailer orders. The results? They were measurable and significant. Inventory fell by 20 to 50%, logistics and warehousing costs dropped, stockouts became far less frequent, demand patterns stabilized across the supply chain, and production planning became much more predictable. These aren't soft improvements, they're quantified outcomes backed by the literature. So, why Barilla? Why is Barilla the go-to example for ECR? Because it hits all 4 ECR pillars simultaneously at that. Efficient, replenishment, assortment, promotion, and product introduction. And crucially, it shows ECR isn't just good for one side. Retailers got better shelf availability, Barilla got stable demand and lower costs. That mutual benefit is the entire promise of ECR, and Barilla delivered on it.
Finally, let's apply ECR to Wedel. As a wholesale retailer, Wedel manages a very large assortment of products and faces fluctuating customer demand. This creates challenges such as high inventory complexity, stockouts, and overstocks. ECR could help Wedel improve efficiency by using real-time sales data to better align supply with actual demand. For example, Wedel could implement vendor-managed inventory or short VMI, where supply manage inventory levels based on shared sales data. This would improve forecasting accuracy, reduce inventory costs, and increase product availability. Overall, ECR would shift Wedel from a forecast-driven system to a more demand-driven supply chain with closer supplier collaboration. Next slide, benefits and challenges of ECR at Wedel. Of course, ECR also brings both benefits and challenges. On the positive side, ECR can lower inventory costs, improve product availability, and reduce the bullwhip effect through better forecasting and coordination. In addition, stronger collaboration between retailers and suppliers can improve logistics efficiencies and support more stable buying decisions. However, implementing ECR also requires significant investment in IT systems and data sharing infrastructure. It also depends heavily on trust, transparency, and long-term cooperation between partners. Furthermore, companies often need organizational changes and new decision-making processes to fully implement ECR successfully. So, to conclude, efficient customer response represents a major shift from traditional supply chain management toward collaborative and consumer-focused relationships. Instead of acting independently, retailers and suppliers work together by sharing information, coordinating processes, and responding directly to actual customer demand. The 4 ECR pillars help companies improve efficiency, reduce total system costs, and mitigate the bullwhip effect. As we saw in the Barilla case and in the example of Wedel, ECR can significantly improve inventory management, forecasting accuracy, and supply chain coordination. However, successful implementation requires investment, transparency, and trust between all partners involved. Overall, ECR creates value not only for companies, but also for consumers through better service, better availability, and more efficient retail operations. Thank you for your attention and thank you for watching.